In this video, I'll be going over one of the ways that I like to start off a wipe as a solo player. After all of the new updates that have been coming out, I figured I'd make a new version of this video. All of my older videos are a little bit outdated, but it's pretty much the same concept. So the first thing is find the nearest fishing village to you, collect all the stone and wood that you see along the way, but don't get greedy. You don't need that much, just enough for a starter base. You can build a boat base later, or you can start off with a starter boat base. I've got some videos on that, and I'll be releasing a new boat base build pretty soon. Besides stone and wood for your base and deployables for the base, you're going to collect the hemp that you see along the way, run with your bag out in case you get shot, so you can put it down and have a placeholder for running over to the fishing village, so you don't have to start all over again if you don't spawn nearby one. So put a bag down like every few squares just in case. Craft up some clothes because we're going to need the clothes to start the rest of this process. I wouldn't recommend collecting any barrels, but if you see toolboxes, you can get some free gear out of there. We'll be collecting this stuff shortly. Our main mission is just to get over to our marker by the fishing village and get our starter base down, and then after that things will start to speed up. Also, don't forget to collect the small nodes along the way. They add up over time, especially if you're running a long distance. It'll make it easier for you so you don't have to chop down as many trees. And like I said, don't collect anything besides stone, wood, and hemp. Everything else is just going to be a waste of time and a distraction to you. You want to get over here as quickly as possible, just in case somebody else is over here as well. You want to put down your base as quickly as possible. And then we will also start crafting our clothes right now so that we can run mini monuments. If you want to start with a starter boat base, like I said, that's up to you, but then you might have to collect a little bit more materials than necessary. I usually just like to start with a 1x1 and then expand into a typical 2x1 starter base. And, you know, most of the time I'll just leave it as wood until I build my main base, and this will just end up being like a backup base or a flank base. So I was a little bit unprepared. It would help if you did the math beforehand on your own, because things vary depending on the deployables that you craft or use. So I did not have enough in this case to put down my doors for my airlock, so I just went over and did that real quick. But in this situation, if it's on a high pop server, there's a pretty strong chance that you may die in this situation, so probably throw everything in the TC and don't leave it unlocked like I did. Now, since we're trying to do this as quickly as possible, the base is not going to be anything too crazy at the moment, just some storage space for when we get back so we can go right back out immediately, or if we're going to get into a fight outside and we get inside real quick, we have a place to depot without needing to wait to craft things. And it's also nighttime, so this is a good time to go out and start farming the road around us. Would not recommend running with your torch out. Just pull it out real quick, hit the barrels. You know, you'll get used to being able to smack barrels in the dark over time if you're not used to it already. So I'll just let the rest of the video play out for a little bit, but before that, basically what we're going to be doing is gathering enough scrap for a boat, which is 125 scrap. I end up going a little bit overboard on that and farming a little bit of extra. In that case, you'd be able to craft yourself a tier 1 workbench and get a full prim kit before you go out with the boat. And then we'll be farming all around the island and then running over to Bandit Camp. And once we get to that point, I'll catch back up with you guys. So we used the materials from recycling on our first mini monument run and pylon run. Basically, it just followed the pylons and collected everything from them, and the mini monuments connected to them stopped at the gas station, got a green card, recycled there, and the materials from that run is what we use to upgrade our base because we're going to be gone for a while. We want to make sure we got our 2 doors down and a bag as well nearby. We're going to bring all of our scrap with us so that we can buy some things at the bandit camp if we want to. Once we get over there, have a little bit of extra scrap, and the goal is to craft a tier 2 workbench and a tier 1 workbench to bring home, and then all of our extra scrap that we're farming once we get back to base we can use in the tech tree to learn whatever BPs we need to without having to go run around like crazy to find them. So with this strategy, it's really chill. You don't really got to worry about much. You can turn some music on while you're out, whatever you want to do, you know. So I like this strategy because of that reason, and you don't really got to worry about clans running up on you or small groups running up on you as much while you're out in the ocean. And if anything, you can bind your switch seat in the keybinds. So if you're getting shot at, I just auto run in the boat and then switch seats around and heal while I'm in the boat. So it's a good way to dodge bullets out in the open, heal up. Overall, pretty safe method for farming scrap, and then it ends up being a lot of scrap in the end once we trade at the bandit camp and recycle for the second time. From start to finish without interruptions, this was only about 40 minutes, and in the end we almost hit 800 scrap. It took us about 10 to 20 minutes to set the base up, and then another 20 minutes to farm that scrap. So if you come back out here after this first run and you bring your workbenches home, this ends up being like around 1200 scrap per hour method of farming. So that's pretty good. Don't really know anything else that's as good as that. Basically just trade at the bandit camp, get a lot of scrap. Although you have to keep in mind for PvP and things like that, I'm just on a regular server to show proof of concept on this method, which I'm sure some of you know already or figured out on your own. But for any new players out there, this is most definitely the quickest and most efficient way for solo players, or just in general, to farm scrap or the initial deployables that you'll need for your base, like workbenches and research bench and stuff like that. It's kind of sketch to run over to bandit camp if it's like in the center of the island, so you might want to wait until nighttime out in the ocean to do this, unless you've already scouted the area out or spawned nearby before and know that there's no bases over here. I wouldn't recommend just full sending it like I am right here, because like I said, on a public server, definitely going to find some people along the way. You're going to want to be careful with that. What you could do is, since you can spawn in the bandit camp and outpost now, you could come and build a starter base over here and bring a horse over, and then like have the horse waiting for you by the water. But at this point, all we're going to be doing is recycling and then running over to the hemp trade, recycling everything that we have, all of the sewing kits, all the clothes, whatever you gather along the way. Only collecting things that you can recycle for things to sell at the bandit camp. I forgot to mention that earlier. So keep things like clothes or things you can recycle for HQM, and then we'll use all that HQM, all that hemp, all that crude oil to trade for scrap on top of all the scrap that we just got from recycling. So the first stop is the hemp, which is just going to be right out over here, and then you take a right underneath the wind turbine, and it's on the other side of all of these buildings over here. It has a timer on it, I think, still, so if you have like more than 3,000 hemp, then you might have to max it out and then come back once it refreshes. So we get a good chunk of scrap out of that, and then you go back where you came from. And this building right here is where the rest of the trades are going to be taking place. So that's HQM, metal frags, and crude oil, key cards if you have them. And then since it's the beginning of the wipe, you just want to sell all of that. You can farm those materials back at your base later. You got them all from recycling anyway. You might as well get as much scrap as possible. You could even buy yourself some guns right off the bat if you don't want to do the workbenches. I just like the workbenches because then you can take them home and with the new tech tree, learn all the BPs that you need to without having to go out and find everything. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe. We've also got the Zerg coming soon. Invite link is in the description for that. Make sure you get the 4DM role if you want to be notified for events with the Zerg, which will be happening soon. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.